Getting light, 5:15 AM, and I am off to the south coast sort of area today, Dorset. People taking advantage of my discount on the consultancy visits that I'm doing this month, so it's quite good. Obviously, there's only so much you can say over the phone without actually having on site. The benefit of being on site, really. So it's always useful. You know, a lot of people sort of struggle really when it comes to, especially this time of year. It's a very good time of year to get people out to have a look at your stuff. I mean, it's not for everyone, you know. People sort of say, oh, what are you going to do? Go out and just tell them to cut some trees down. Well, yeah, sometimes you do, but there's obviously a lot more to it than that. You can get involved and certainly test the water. A lot of people haven't got water quality test kits, but not being funny, you can buy one, test all the basic parameters for 20 quid, get yourself an NT Labs test kit online. And this is the time of year to be testing the water quality regularly. You know, in the winter, when we're doing all our fish movement work, when it kicks off, the water's really cold. Cold water holds more oxygen, there's plenty of oxygen around, so it's not much of an issue really, unless you've got real drastic problems. But this time of year, lots of places struggle with water levels, water quality. Certainly weed and algae are the two main issues that rear their ugly head, and unexplained fish losses. You know, every year people very quickly jump on the KHV bandwagon and say, oh, I'm losing fish, must be this, must be that, because the symptoms are the same. Well, like I say to a lot of people, really, there's so many reasons why your fish won't be happy at this time of year, especially after spawning. But without actually having a look, getting some first-hand experience on site, and everywhere's different. You know, it's very difficult looking at forums. Sometimes it's very cringy when people ask just random questions and people give very random answers, and it's like a lot of people are just looking for a product to buy. Some simple answer to solve all their problems, and sort of think, well, that's that done. It's like it's on a list of jobs for the day. Make breakfast, solve the fish problem. Oh, I've done that now, tick. It's not always that straightforward. Especially you're dealing with nature, you're dealing with wildlife, you know, and once you get to the bottom of an issue and a problem, it's like when we were growing up. You always learn when people are losing fish. It's very easy to say, well, that fish has died because it's got an overload of certain parasite, you know, or the gills are knackered, or oh, well done, yes, well, you've just given a very accurate autopsy of why the fish has actually died, you know, what's actually led to its death. But you've always got to look before that, take a step back, rewind, if you like, and think, why is it like that now? You know, is it because they're stressed? It's all stress. Everything's stress related, and the minute they get stressed, they'll stop feeding. If they stop feeding, they'll pick up more parasites. You know, so you always have to take that step back and think, right, why are the fish in distress? What's going on? What is going on at my fishery? Not what did I read in the magazine, or what did I look at online today? What's actually going on in my lake at this moment right now? And you've got to look at, is it predation? Are the fish getting stressed and scared by otters, cormorants, etc., chasing them around all the time, stressing them out? That'll do. You know, you think if the fish are constantly being bombarded by things that are trying to eat them, they're just going to hold up in areas. If they're holding up in tight areas, some of you like to have sanctuary and snags and all this, that and the other, which is fine, you know, each their own. If those fish are sat there holding up, rife for parasites to transfer, you know, they're more likely, especially when it's warm. If it's warm and the fish are stressed and they're all just sat there lethargic in groups, parasites love that, especially external skin parasites. You know, people ringing up, they've got huge amounts of argillus on the fish. That's one of the reasons why, you know, the fish are held up in an area. We don't want that. We want the fish active. We want the fish moving. If they're active and moving, and it's a bit like everything really, you can just keep healthy, you know, keep yourself busy, keep moving, get nutrition into the fish. Yes, feeding's really important. I always remember years and years and years ago, I advised a fishery to feed their lake, and it was by some very famous tennis courts. and they'd had various different advice over the years, and yeah, I told them to feed the fish, and it wasn't a particularly heavily fish water. It was a club water. It was a big bit of water, but the fish weren't getting a lot of food. You know, there was a lot of old fish in there, and they wanted them to breed, and all they wanted to do was spend about 10 grand on new fish. Sort of, you know, encourage them to sort of chuck a bit of food in. And then, this is long time ago, and back then people were sort of, oh, why are you telling them to feed the fish? It's perfectly natural, this, that and the other. But it works, you know, it does work, but each situation is very different, so you've got to understand that. And nowadays, again, everyone just generalises, and people read something online and go, right, I've read this, so let's put, it's like with calcium carbonate applications, you know, and stuff like that. People go, oh, well, this will sort the silt out. They do one application once, and then they go, well, I've done that, and it didn't make any difference, I'm not doing it again. Or they'll feed for a week and go, well, nothing's changed, so I won't do it again. Or, you know, it's crazy. Or they'll net one year, the one winter, they'll get a netting team in, net like once, crop a few silvers, or just have a look, or adjust the stock, or move a few fish around within an existing site, or, you know, something like that. They'll do it 1 year and go, oh, well, that's done now. You know, we're dealing with complex habitats and nature, and it's constantly managing it. You don't have to, you know. It's very nice to sit there and go, well, we leave it to nature and we don't lose any fish. I've heard that quite a few times. You do. Very naive if you don't think you do, but you do lose fish every year. Everyone does. But it's, you know, you don't have to do all these jobs and tasks at your fishery. You can just leave it and wing it, and when you lose a load of fish, not just carp, but you can just replace them. And occasionally in urban environments, towns and cities and stuff, where you're never going to fence half these waters. Same with cormorants. If you're getting huge amounts of damage from cormorants, some of these places, especially clubs, inner city clubs, they got no choice but to every now and then restock, because they obviously can't control predators how they want. And there's some really good schemes and projects in inner cities where, you know, we've worked for quite a lot of them, especially like, is it Stuart Stockton up in Manchester way? You know, they're doing brilliant things up there, and they do stuff with predation, but every now and then they just restock, and in that situation it's brilliant. You know, yes, you've got to keep putting fish in because it encourages people down there, and it's all well and good. But on the flip side of that, we still go to loads of places and they've got too many fish, and by that I mean it's affecting the catch rates as well. It's you know, people are looking at it thinking, oh, we just want to slip a few more in this year. I've been to a number of places where they say, oh, my aim is to get X amount of fish to X amount of pounds in X amount of years, and you're like, okay, right. But then they just keep buying them. Oh, but this one will do it, and that one will do it, and this, and then you soon add up, your biomass goes through the roof, and you think, well, you gotta, you know, space, food, oxygen. Every time we tell people that, space, food, oxygen. Those are the three fundamental key things that you need to keep sweet in your fishery, regardless of what type of fishery it is. Doesn't matter if it's a match fishery, carp fishery, doesn't matter. Specimen, gudgeon fishery, really doesn't matter. Any of those fish need space, food and oxygen, and if one of those things is lacking, that's when your problems start. There's always unexplained fish deaths, but most of it's down to climate, down to local environment basically, and you can normally put your finger on it without too much problem. Normally the biomass is high. If whilst there's lots of places which had huge amounts of algal blooms this summer, a lot of those places, if they're managed properly, they get through it, because a lot of algal blooms are actually quite good for the water. They maintain the oxygen level. So that's always worth bearing that in mind. Everywhere's different though. You know, if you compare your lake to one up the road, or one you've read in a magazine, or seen someone spouting off about online, it's dangerous, and you shouldn't do that. It's always about, right, what's going on in my lake right now. So yeah, that's basically what you're trying to put your finger on is right, okay, you go to a fishery, there's always stuff, every single place you go to, there's always stuff can be improved in every single, and anyone will tell you that. There's always stuff you can do. We go to a lot of places where the people just sit back, charge day ticket, take the money, never lift a finger to do any work on the lakes at all. The swims are bad, the stock's in bad condition, you know, but that's fine. You know, again, if that's how you want to run your fishery, that's entirely your choice. But if you look at long term, the benefits of actually having a proactive approach to fishery management and looking after your stock, it pays you back tenfold. Not only because it's peace of mind, and no one likes going through the summer. We're in a beautiful sunrise this morning. Well, it's going to be. It's not up yet, but it's beautiful red skies. Yeah, so it's the same old story really. You know, I've got quite a lot of these visits to do this month, which is always nice. A lot of new clients. But everywhere's different. You go to some places and things jump out of you, it's glaringly obvious. But you take your fishing head off. It's very rarely on actually these days, but it's all about what's best for the particular water and the particular client. We don't sell product. I don't have a website full of stuff which I just buy off someone else and sell on. I've never done that. It's not really my thing. It's because you can't none of it really does what you think it's going to do. It gives people a false sense of security, saying, well, just chuck this in, it'll be fine. Barley straw's the one at this time of year. They get to July and go, should we put some barley straw in? Solve all our algae problems. It's like, no, it won't. But you know, people will sell you stuff in a bottle for an extortionate amount of money. And it's the same with all these little bits and pieces. You know, you don't need it if you understand what's going on. But again, it's a bit like with your fish health. Prior to that, it's no good waiting until the summer and saying, right, oh, I've got a problem here. You preempt everything and you plan everything. And if you stick to these plans and you work at it, the benefits are huge. And your headaches are less and less every year. Every year, people lose fish. Every single year. And it's heartbreaking. It's never nice, especially to those people who are putting the effort in and imagine their fishery. But then, you know, it's the same as every single person who works with livestock. It does happen, and it's how you get through it and move on, really. But it's one of those. I mean, there's been a lot worse summers, especially for infection rates and stuff like that. Obviously, COVID hasn't helped because less and less people are out and about. But it certainly makes driving a lot easier. Traffic's lovely. I still get up early anyway. We don't like to not get on site. I hate people say, oh, they turned up to net the late, they didn't get there till 10 o'clock. It's like, well, that's half the day gone. You know, you want to be there early, crack on, provide a good service, not just rock up with a little net in the back of your van and try and fluke some fish out that you want to take home and sell. It's not what we're about. But yeah, again, same with the winter, you know.